How is Hashirama so young? I mean, the guy looks great when he died, because we know that the Edo Tensei, in default at least, brings back the person in the exact same state when the person died. For instance, Nagato was brought back as a very frail old man because he used the Rinna Tensei just prior to his death, and that's how the Edo Tensei brought him back. The only big exception to that was Madara's Edo Tensei, which Kabuto modified so that he would come back at his peak, and not as a frail old man, because that's how Madara died. We can assume that Hashirama was brought back via Edo Tensei in the same shape he died. Orochimaru brought him back twice, and he never really mentioned making any modifications to Hashirama. We also know that Hashirama died in the First Great Ninja War, which was a decently long time ago in the Naruto-verse. It's also stated in the first Naruto databook that Hashirama died young. Now, of course, this is a very vague statement. Young could mean different things depending on who you ask, but it's safe to assume that the way Hashirama looks in his Edo Tensei form is pretty much the way he died, and he doesn't look too old at all. Naturally, it's difficult to estimate correctly the age of a manga/anime character. It's not the easiest thing for you to say. Hashirama looks anything between 25 and 40 years old, depending on where you're gonna go. He could even be older than 40 if you want to stretch it a little bit. But in order to determine that, we have to do a little bit of math, even though we don't know the correct numbers, which doesn't help. But we can assume things, and here we like to do that. Madara and Hashirama formed the Uchiha Senju alliance about 60-ish years ago from the start of the series, and in that point in time they were likely in their mid-20s. That's what seems to be the consensus online. Many people claim that Hashirama became the first Hokage at 26 years old, which is a fair estimation, I would say. Hashirama was about the same age as Madara, and we know Tobirama was probably 2 years younger than Hashirama. So if we assume he ruled for 5 years, he would have died at 31. If we assume he ruled for 10 years, he would have died at 36. We don't know how long Hashirama ruled for, but it is stated in the first databook that Hashirama didn't rule for very long, and of course, statements for the first databook are not the most reliable thing in the world for the amount of retcons the Naruto series went through, but still, it's something we can go by. The thing is, we see Hashirama carrying Tsunade and interacting with her to a certain extent, because Hashirama himself says that he got Tsunade addicted to betting, and Tsunade is Hashirama's grandchild. When we see the two together, Hashirama looks exactly like his Edo Tensei form looks. He looks young, man. He looks good. And when we see that Hashirama actually made Tsunade addicted to betting, we see that Tsunade was already able to count money, to stand on her feet. So she wasn't an infant or anything like that. She was very young, but she was probably like 3, maybe 4. So if Hashirama died at 36 years old, like we estimated before, he would have had to have his children at 16, and his children would have to have children at 16 as well, so that Tsunade could grow 4 years, and that's about the age Hashirama probably taught her how to bet, because you can't really do those types of things to someone younger than 4. So if that's the case, then Hashirama had children at 16, and yeah, their children also had children very young at 16. To be fair, the Warring States period was a very brutal time in the Naruto world, so you have to get things done before you die. I mean, the life expectancy was 35 years old because so many young people died in the battlefield, so I don't blame Hashirama for having children soon. But if we assume that Hashirama died at about 31, if he ruled for 5 years and if he took office at 26, then things get a little, I don't know, man. Hashirama would have needed to have a child at 13 years old, and his children would needed to have a child at 13 or 14, and then Tsunade can grow 4 years until Hashirama teaches everything about betting and stuff. And if you assume Hashirama was younger when they founded the village, that's a bit of a let's not get into that. Of course, there's also the possibility that when Hashirama founded the village with Madara, they were already much older, which I like better than, Hashirama being 20 when he took office. That wouldn't make much sense. If they are, say, 35 when they founded the Leaf Village, and Hashirama ruled for 5 to 10 years, which I assume is a fair estimate for the way Hashirama looks in the Edo Tensei form, then Hashirama would have had to have children at 20 or so, and his children as well, and then Tsunade can grow 3 to 4 years, and that would make it a very fair estimate for a 45-year-old Senju Hashirama. Sure, 20 to 21 is not the oldest age for you to have children, but we see a lot of cases in the real world of this happening, and also in the Naruto world. It's just not that conventional to see a grandparent that's about 40 years old, and that's what makes Hashirama's picture with Tsunade a little bit weird, because he is her granddad, and he doesn't look old at all. Like, what gives? But yeah, if he was 45 when he died, things make sense. Also, there is another very interesting possibility here. The theory that Hashirama was actually far older when he died. Now, to analyze this theory properly, we first have to analyze Madara's design. Madara looks to be about the same age as Hashirama. The bags beneath Madara's eyes indicate a certain age, but he doesn't look to be completely old as well. I mean, if you look at Jiraiya, he doesn't look too old, but he is 50 in the beginning of the series. So I think from Jiraiya's design, you can extrapolate that even someone like Hashirama could be 50. And Hashirama is a special case. Now, if we assume they were 40 when they founded the Leaf Village, and Hashirama and Madara fought when they were about 44 years old, because we know Hashirama was already the Hokage when they fought in the Valley of the End, and that's probably not too far-fetched, looking Madara and Hashirama's design in the Valley of the End. Then, if Hashirama ruled over Konoha for 5 or 6 more years, he could have died in the First Great Ninja War at 50 years old. And if you want to say they were even older when they founded the village, then maybe Hashirama was 55 or something like that when he died. But Hashirama had something different, as I said before. He had an entire body made out of Hashirama cells, quite literally, and we know the properties Hashirama cells have: regeneration and just very powerful endurance. It's not far-fetched to assume that the Hashirama cells would provide some sort of rejuvenation, stopping someone from aging if you have Hashirama cells. Now, we don't exactly see that happening with Obito, who got Hashirama cells when he was 13, or Danzo when he got Hashirama cells much older in life, and we can see Danzo aged during the series. But Hashirama was, as I said before, an entire body of Hashirama cells. He was a different beast entirely. And you can argue that even Hashirama aged. I mean, Obito was a kid when he got the Hashirama cells. So there's a chance that because Hashirama is made 100% out of Hashirama cells, he didn't age like other people and actually looked much younger when he was 55 or so. The only problem with this theory is Madara's design to a certain extent, and also Tobirama's design, because Tobirama isn't that much younger than Madara. We can see when they were kids that they were pretty much the same height. And naturally Hashirama was the oldest one, but Tobirama wasn't that younger, man. Tobirama's design doesn't change at all, essentially. He remains the same Tobirama guy, just like Hashirama's design remains the same during his entire adult life. Which brings me to another theory as to why Hashirama looks so young. Maybe the Senju clan looks younger than the others. Maybe they have that powerful Ashura DNA that lets them rejuvenate themselves just by existing with that type of chakra. This is supported by Hashirama and Tobirama, and when we see Hashirama's dad, he doesn't look too old. I mean, of course he has details that indicate age on his design, but he's by no means an old man, and of course we don't know his exact age. When we see Hashirama's dad in the flashback, he may have been been 40 or he may have been 60. But we also see that Tsunade has some abilities that can help her with that. Now, of course, these are much more specialized abilities. The jutsu Tsunade uses to look like she's 19 when she's 50 is not what I'm talking about here, but maybe she got inspired by the Senju rejuvenation to create that jutsu in the first place. The 100 ceilings technique.
The 100 healings.
The 100 ceilings.
The 100 healings.
The 100 ceilings.
You stupid.
They're not.
What's 9 plus 10?
The 100 ceilings.
You stupid.
It's pretty powerful and can maintain her appearance. But you know who else she copied for the 100 ceilings ability? Yes, Hashirama. In the fight against Madara, when the 5 Kage are battling him, Madara is making fun of Tsunade because she has to weave hand signs to heal people. Hashirama didn't have to do that. He just regens passively, essentially. So when Tsunade uses the 100 ceilings technique,
No! The 100 healings.
she makes a big deal out of her being able to heal herself without hand signs. Maybe she got that from her granddad, and maybe she got the appearance part of the 100
Healings.
from the Senju clan. Of course, that's when Tsunade loses the chakra from the 100 ceilings and reverts back to her older states. She doesn't look young one bit. She actually looks much older than her age in that state. She's 50 when the series starts, so she's about 53 in Naruto Shippuden, but when she reverts back to her normal state, she looks 70 or even older. Her hands look very, very old. We never see her face, that's very much on purpose. Kishimoto doesn't really want to show the very pretty Tsunade being an old lady, which I think was a mistake. It would have been much more shocking if we saw Tsunade's face when she was in that state, but still. Tsunade could have easily been inspired by the Senju clan rejuvenation because when doing that jutsu, but then you may say, well, but Tsunade looks really old when she reverts back, and she's also a Senju, what gives? Well, maybe Tsunade is an exception. As I said before, she looks much older than her age when she reverts back. I mean, if you look at Jiraiya, as I said before, he looks great for a 50-year-old, and Tsunade, she looks absolutely horrible. So maybe the 100 ceilings technique drains Tsunade so much of her chakra that when she runs out of her seal, she looks way older than her age just because she's so low on chakra and the jutsu drained her so badly. Because other than Tsunade and Hashirama's dad, we never see a Senju that's older than 50 allegedly, because we technically don't know how old Tobirama and Hashirama were when they died. It's making it kind of difficult to judge how old a particular Senju looks. We can look at the Uzumakis, who are technically a branch family of the Senju clan, and we see that Mito Uzumaki looked extremely old when she was about to pass the Nine Tails to Kushina. Obviously, she was indeed extremely old in that age, so she looked what she was supposed to. Maybe the Uzumakis wouldn't have the same ability as the Senjus, and that could even explain why Tsunade doesn't look younger when her state reverts back, because she is part Uzumaki. As you remember, Mito Uzumaki was Hashirama's wife, and therefore Tsunade's grandma. Unless Hashirama was up to no good, I don't know. And that's the thing, the Senjus kind of vanished from the story. Maybe they just got incorporated into the other clans, but we don't see a sign of actual Senjus other than Tsunade. And so we cannot confirm whether they have this ability to look younger than they should. This would make some sense in universe because of Ashura and all that, but the most elegant theory, I would say, is that Hashirama was around 40 years old when he died. So he could have had children at 20, and his children could have children at 20, and he could be a granddad at 40. Maybe a little younger because Tsunade would have to have grown a little bit for Hashirama to teach her about betting and stuff like that. If Hashirama was 40 to 45 when he died, I think the design suits him well, and even if you say that his design should look a little bit older for that age, you can also say that, well, it's Hashirama we're talking about. Hashirama cells, he looks younger because of them, because they heal him constantly and maybe they prevent him from aging so badly. And then you can say Tobirama was younger than him even when he died. And also the Senju clan probably aged slower than other people, so Tobirama would also be kind of included in that. Madara was kind of showing signs of aging by that point. He had the bags beneath his eyes, as I said before. But to be fair, Madara kind of had that design since he was younger, so it's kind of the Itachi lines on Itachi's face. It's a design choice which looks cool, but it makes the character look more mature. Let me know how old you think Hashirama was when he died, and how old he was when he became the Hokage. Watch this other video right here for more interesting Naruto content. Subscribe to my channel. Also like this video to help me out with the algorithm. Thank you so much for watching.